This is case of the day, and this is the 120th case on a Thursday. After this is the Diwali break, and I will probably not be posting the whole of next week, but I do have a bunch of cases that were, let's say, on a specific day, there would be more than one interesting one, and I've got about 4 or 5 of those just waiting to be done. And if I find time, I will post them next week as kind of a special. But let's see, or I can just keep them for another week. But this is the 120th case, the universal ischemia of apical HCM. So the 65-year-old at the time came for a cardiac MR in 2017, and you can clearly see that there's systolic obliteration of the apex. There's apical displacement of the papillary muscle. There's an ace of spades appearance. This is classic apical HCM. Minimal enhancement at the time. Then the patient came for a follow-up 8 years later, and now we can see there's a difference. The apical hypertrophy has increased, but now this area is hypokinetic, and there is a small aneurysm here. In systole, you can see a little outpouching here, and there's extensive fibrosis. There was also a septal component, which I'm not showing right now, but the total fibrosis was about 17%. So that if you compare this, you can see that here. Just see the two chamber and the difference. This is a hypercontractile apex in 2017. This is now severely hypokinetic with a small aneurysm here. And if you look at the fibrosis, the significant fibrosis in the apex and then this small aneurysm here. Now, just a little bit about apical HCM before we get into the ischemia part and the aneurysm part. It's not uncommon, and I did a case 96 at mricardiac.com. It's all available for free, but if you want to brush up on this, then these are the various signs that you have of an apical HCM that allow us to make the diagnosis. And I also talked about the different types. There's pure apical, relative apical, mixed apical, and then the fact that ischemia is likely universal in patients with apical HCM. So Rebecca Hughes did this paper in 23. I thought it was quite a landmark paper where they did adenosine stress MR in all of these patients and found 100% of patients had ischemia when they did quantitative perfusion. And here is one patient who has frank apical aneurysm and transmural enhancement, almost looking like, it is infarction. So this is the later stage of ischemia. And here's another patient, and I just showed a bunch of these in different posts. So you can look at these posts. I think there are about 3 of them, and go through all of them. Ischemia is due to likely microvascular dysfunction. That's the postulate, and we would pick it up early if we did adenosine stress MRs, which we don't. And so most of the times we, like in our patient, pick them up late when there is scar and aneurysm formation. So unless we did adenosine stress perfusion MRs, but there's no reason really to do them. So we now just assume that every patient has some form of microvascular dysfunction and will eventually, either at presentation, show an apical aneurysm, an infarction, or significant scar, or when we are following up these patients. And now people have started coming for follow-ups after 2, 3, 4, 5 years. This one was after 8 years. We then find evidence. Typically they're going to progress to full-blown scar and aneurysm formation. So just something to keep in mind if you're reading cardiac MRs and you see patients with apical HCM. That's the WhatsApp channel, and thank you so much for viewing this.